On November 27, 1988, a usual missed phone call led to a startling discovery. Every Sunday, Robert Hecht and his oldest sister had a weekly call that he never skipped. However, on that Sunday, silence hung heavy on the line. His sister was so concerned that she called the police to request that his Rio Toga's drive home in Punta Gorda, Florida, be checked on. 2 days later, on November 29th, their greatest fears had come true. 58-year-old Robert was discovered dead, brutally slain in his house. This peaceful day had turned into a terrifying spectacle. Authorities spent a lot of time looking into the case. However, for 3 decades, there wasn't any progress in the case. Just when hope seemed to be fading, there came a breakthrough. After 30 years, what evidence would investigators might have discovered? And more importantly, who was the person responsible? Before we move on to the future, let us recall the dark site. Investigators noted that the scene itself portrayed a bleak picture. Robert was lying deceased on the couch, and besides him there was a large, blood-stained glass ashtray. He had sustained multiple blows to the head. Evidently, the ashtray was the murder weapon, except there wasn't any indication of struggle. This implied that Robert was probably ambushed or caught off guard. In addition, he seemed to have been dead for a few days. The police determined that he passed away on the 27th, the day he failed to answer his sister's phone. At the crime scene, the police discovered additional evidence along with the weapon. A burnt matchstick lying on the back of his leg, as well as a cigarette butt on the floor. One cigarette butt that would potentially have profound impacts. Even so, there was something much more worrisome. Robert's brand-new Lincoln town car wasn't there. It had disappeared without a trace, adding an additional layer of ambiguity to a case that was already perplexing. As they delved further, the investigators attempted to trace Robert's movements prior to the slaying. Just 1 day before he passed away, on November 26, 1988, witnesses reported that they had seen him around the evening. However, he was accompanied by an unfamiliar face, a man who went by Ray. He was a white man with a southern accent. Those who knew Robert did not recognize him. The specifics regarding Ray were also not really clear. Ray claimed to be from Tennessee and Kentucky, and that he had split up with his wife, presently living with his daughter of age 14. Who might he be then? The more they contemplated the situation, the odd it seemed. Maybe he had something to do with Robert's demise. Robert's last known movements were pinpointed by the detectives. On the evening of the 26th, he was spotted with Ray at the Fisherman's Village Oyster Bar in Punta Gorda. Before leaving for home, Robert had even implied that he and Ray will be going to another bar. This laid forth a definite timeline and location for Robert's final hours. Nevertheless, that Ray guy remained a mystery. His identity posed the greatest obstacle in the case. The hunt for the answers expanded beyond Charlotte County. Then came a significant breakthrough. On November 28, 1988, in the town of Lenoir, North Carolina, a man was observed driving out of a store and abandoning Robert's stolen vehicle, the Lincoln he had just purchased a month before, as per the information provided to the police. More than 700 miles away from Punta Gorda, on Main Street in Lenoir, he had ditched it. Not only did this surprising discovery validate the car's theft, it also offered a plausible escape route for the assailant. Now that it was in the Lenoir police's possession, the automobile had become a crucial piece of evidence that might provide some important answers. Crime scene investigators meticulously examined the Lincoln while following the trail of the found car. Their search uncovered a critical piece of evidence: one cigarette butt. This was an interesting finding, because they had also discovered another cigarette butt close to the body previously when they had searched Robert's house. However, the one from the stolen vehicle was thought to be the perpetrator's. Robert had a strong policy against smoking in his automobile, so finding a cigarette butt inside was, in fact, a remarkable discovery. He himself never smoked in it or let anyone else do the same, which implied that the cigarette was probably not Robert, and perhaps it was a clue instead, accidentally left behind by the perpetrator. Just as investigators were following up on the stolen Lincoln lead, the case was about to take a new turn. A new eyewitness came forward, alleging to have seen a blonde woman in the passenger seat of the stolen vehicle. This completely blew the whole investigation off course. This blonde woman, who was she? Was she merely a random passenger or something more? Investigators conducted endless witness interview in an effort to find any discrepancies that would point them in the direction of the truth. The media increased its pressure as the days stretched into weeks, but the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office remained quiet. The absence of a motive, the unknown man Ray, and the unfamiliar blonde woman all began to hint at a planned crime gone wrong. Grief engulfed Robert's family as their Sunday routine resorted to an eerie silence. Eventually the case went cold, without any new leads to pursue and no clues. However, one question lingered throughout the investigation. Will they ever be able to catch Robert's assailant? The Robert Hecht case remained unsolved for decades until September 2021, when hope was rekindled. Detectives from Charlotte County Cold Case Unit reviewed every detail in an effort to unravel the decades-old riddle. Priority was given to witness interviews, especially those involving the mysterious figure Ray. The initial investigation revealed various details about Ray's purported past, including his residence in Tennessee and Kentucky and his separation from his wife, along with his daughter. However, due to technological limitations at the time, the investigation's progress was impeded. Although this apparently mundane info was insufficient to reduce the suspect pool, yet it held the key to discovering the truth in 2021. Thanks to developments in DNA technology, the cold case investigators had new hope. Reevaluation of the evidence took place in September 2021. When the two cigarette butts were sent for DNA analysis, the investigators were surprised to be met with a new discovery. Both of them had the same man's DNA on them. This was a huge breakthrough. It verified that the man who stole Robert's automobile and attacked him in his house was the same man who had smoked the cigarette that was discovered inside the car. However, one crucial element was still absent: a name for this DNA profile. Reinforced in their resolve, the investigators looked through the nation's DNA profile database, the combined DNA index system, but found nothing. This indicated that the offender had no prior criminal history. Subsequently, they advanced their investigation by uploading the findings for genealogical testing. This revolutionary method tracks a person's ancestry through DNA, potentially finding matches with family members within a database. Although there was a chance of failure, it provided a way forward where other approaches had not. Nevertheless, the decision paid off when a Tennessee-based family member was found to be a match. Now that a genealogical connection had been identified, investigators carried out interviews, looked through family trees, and directly compared with relatives. Following a lengthy investigation, they eventually located the man they had been looking for, Kenneth Ray Miller, who was just 36 years old when Robert Hecht was killed, thanks to this procedure as well as the information they had regarding the 14-year-old daughter that Ray had mentioned. Shockwaves ran through the community when Ray Miller's name was made public. Once more, witness interviews were held, but this time Ray's pictures were brought along. The findings were thrilling. People who had come across Ray earlier that tragic November 26, 1988 evening were able to positively identify him from the pictures. The witnesses revealed more than just his identity. Once they saw Ray's picture, one witness revealed an astonishing detail. Not only had they witnessed Ray and Robert together that evening on November 26th, but they had also seen him the very next morning, on November 27th, at Robert's house. This demonstrated that Ray was more than simply a passing acquaintance, as he seemed at ease enough to stay the night at Robert's house. The witness saw him laying over the end of the couch in the living room, the very couch on which Robert's lifeless body was eventually discovered. However, fate delivered a cruel twist. Investigating further, police learned that Kenneth Ray Miller had died in 2007, at the age of 55, from natural causes, taking the rest of the story with him to the afterlife. Although the identification provided some closure, it also left a gap, as there were still unanswered questions about Robert's last moments and the motive behind the crime. Though the investigation was halted several times, it went on, and Ray's background check turned up a troubling revelation. He had a history of violent offenses, such as arson, burglary, and aggravated battery. These were but a handful of the crimes he had committed in the past. This aggressive streak provided a disturbing portrayal of the man with whom Robert had spent his final hours with. Following an almost 3-decade-long and unrelenting pursuit of justice, the case was formally concluded by the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Team on March 22, 2024. But since the perpetrator is no longer alive to face prosecution, and the blonde woman has not been found, the outcome was bittersweet. The perpetrator's passing did provide some closure, while also serving as a somber reminder that Ray would never have to deal with the fallout from his deeds. The case of Robert Hecht stands as a testament to the persistent impact of investigative work. Even after decades, families longing for answers can find closure through technological improvements and the unwavering search for the truth. Though the main suspect may have died, the mysterious blonde woman remains on the road, still out there. She may know more about the crime. Could she have been an accomplice, or was she merely a coincidence in this tragic story? Robert Hecht's family can rest easy knowing that Kenneth Ray Miller has been identified, even though the case may not be completely solved. October 10, 2005. At Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, a janitor makes a horrifying discovery. Inside a restroom trash can wrapped in a hotel bag lies the lifeless body of a newborn girl. This tiny infant, who will soon be named Baby Skylar, had lived for only about 24 hours before her life was tragically cut short. The initial investigation, led by the FBI Phoenix Violent Crime Task Force, was immediately launched. The scale of the task is daunting. With the airport's daily traffic averaging over 100,000 travelers, identifying potential suspects proves overwhelming. Detectives sift through countless possibilities, review hours of surveillance footage, and interview numerous travelers and airport staff. Despite their extensive efforts, the case quickly goes cold. Leads are scarce, and the identity of baby Skylar and her mother remains a mystery. Years pass, and the story of baby Skylar fades from the headlines but not from the hearts of those who heard it. Candlelight vigils are held, and the community continues to hope for answers. The memory of the tiny infant left in such tragic circumstances serves as a haunting reminder of an unresolved mystery. In November 2021, nearly 16 years after baby Skylar was found, a breakthrough comes. Investigators decide to revisit the evidence using advanced forensic techniques, specifically investigative genetic genealogy, IgG. The evidence collected at the scene in 2005 includes a crucial DNA sample. Through IgG, detectives identify a possible maternal match, leading them to Annie Anderson, who is living in Snohomish County, Washington. In January 2022, Arizona investigators execute a search warrant and interview Anderson. During this interview, Anderson confirms that she is baby Skylar's mother and reveals that she had been in Phoenix in 2005 for a real estate boot camp. Based on this new evidence and her confession, a Maricopa County grand jury issues a warrant for her arrest. Anderson is taken into custody in Washington and later extradited to Arizona, facing charges of first-degree murder, child abuse, and concealing a dead body. The news of Anderson's arrest brings a mix of relief and sorrow to the community. For many, it is a moment of justice long overdue. The case had haunted the Phoenix community for years, and the arrest rekindles hope that baby Skylar will finally receive the justice she deserves. The legal proceedings that follow are closely watched. Anderson's defense argues that there is insufficient evidence to convict her, emphasizing that the DNA evidence, while compelling, needs to be considered alongside other circumstantial evidence. The prosecution, however, presents a robust case built on the DNA match and Anderson's confession. During the trial, the prosecution highlights the meticulous work of the investigators who never gave up on the case. They detail the use of investigative genetic genealogy, which ultimately led them to Anderson. The defense focuses on questioning the reliability of the DNA evidence and the circumstances of Anderson's confession. Despite the defense's efforts, the evidence against Anderson was overwhelming. On March 15, 2024, after a thorough examination of all the facts, Anderson is found guilty of first-degree murder, child abuse, and concealing a dead body. The verdict is a moment of closure for many, bringing an end to a case that had remained unsolved for far too long. The guilty verdict in Anderson's trial brings a wave of emotions throughout the Phoenix community and beyond. For those who had been touched by baby Skylar's story, the news is both a relief and a poignant reminder of the long journey to justice. Community members and advocates who had followed the case express a sense of closure. Vigils are held once again, this time in remembrance, and to honor the justice finally achieved for baby Skylar. Many recall the vigils from years past and speak of the renewed sense of peace that the verdict brings. The case becomes a symbol of the importance of never giving up on seeking justice, no matter how much time has passed. Following the success of IgG in the baby Skylar case, several jurisdictions implement policies to ensure that DNA evidence from cold cases is periodically reviewed using the latest available technology. This proactive approach aims to prevent cases from languishing unsolved for decades and to provide closure to families and communities affected by such crimes. The case underscores the importance of community involvement and awareness in solving cold cases. Public interest and pressure can play a significant role in keeping cases active and encouraging the allocation of resources needed for thorough investigations. Community support and advocacy prove crucial in maintaining momentum in the pursuit of justice. The use of genetic genealogy raises important ethical questions about privacy and consent. The baby Skylar case sparks discussions about the balance between solving crimes and protecting individual rights. These discussions are crucial in shaping policies that ensure the responsible use of genetic data in criminal investigations. If you find this video compelling, show your support by giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to our channel, and ringing that notification bell. By doing so, you'll stay updated about the latest investigations and mysteries. Your support means the world to us as we continue to pursue the truth in the world of cold cases.